Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuhu. Welcome back to the biology online class 8th. I hope you all have revised your previous lectures and keeping yourself updated with the daily work in all the subjects. Let's proceed on to the exercise on page number 27. Before starting on something new, first question, that is exercise A, match the following. Column A and column B, that is number 1, sepals. What is the function of the sepal? Is to protect the flower in the bud stage. Number 2, petals. It is there, or the function is to attract the insects for pollination. And then pistil and sepals, pistil and stamens. Stamens is what? It is the male reproductive part, and pistil is the female reproductive part. Then question B, circle the odd one and name the category to which the other three belong, that is rose, salvia, dahlia and hydrilla. So this rose, salvia and dahlia, they are all plants which are pollinated by insects. Next is grass, Vallisneria, wheat and palm. This Vallisneria is the odd one out, and in the first one it is a hydrilla which is odd one out. Vallisneria is again the plant whose flowers are pollinated by water, and rest are the plants whose flowers are pollinated by wind. And tick the correct option. The reproductive parts of the flower are stamens and pistil. Which of the following pair contain the male reproductive cell and female reproductive cell respectively? It is the pollen grain and ovule. Which of the following is not a part of the pistil? It is the anther. Stigma, style and ovary are part of the pistil. What is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of a flower called? It is called as pollination. Then self-pollination does not occur in mango. Cross-pollination occurs in mango. Next is germination, penetration of the ovule and fertilization. Germination of the pollen tube, that is germination of the pollen, not the germination that you have been, not the germination of the seed. So what is pollination? That is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of a plant. What happens? The pollen grains are transferred, and it is the starting point for the process of fertilization to take place. So this is pollination is done with the help of the different agents of pollination, which can be wind, water or wildlife, which can be insects and animals. Then the pollen is deposited on a plant stigma, which is part of the pistil. And the pistil, what is the pistil? That is the carpel or the gynoecium, right? So this is called pollination. Then next is the germination of the pollen tube or pollen grain. The germination, the pollen tube begins growing and it enters the ovule towards the and reaches the point where the egg cell is situated, and it fuses with it, leading to the process of fertilization. So this is the third step, that is the penetration of the ovule, which I have told you that when the pollen tube reaches the ovule, it penetrates it, it enters it and leads to the process of fertilization, which is the final step where the fusion of the male and female gamete take place, and the process of fertilization is complete, and the formation of zygote and later on embryo from which the new plant develops. Now these are the steps in the process of whole mechanism of sexual reproduction. So before starting with the process of fertilization, let's proceed on to the structure of the pollen grain. Now you can see the structure of the pollen grain. It is deposited from the transfer by from the anther, and this is what is the structure, that is the pollen grain. Pollen grain, it has two types of nuclei, that is the generative nuclei and the tube nucleus, right? So generative nucleus, you can see this is the generative nucleus and this is the tube nucleus, right? So when this pollen grain gets deposited on the pollen tube, on the stigma, it starts growing because of a few enzymes present on the stigma. They start growing. Now what you can see is, I will draw it and show it to you. That is, you can see this is how, this is the stigma, this is the style, and this is the ovary, right? This is the ovary. This is a rough sketch which I am just showing to, so that you can understand what is happening. Now this pollen tube grows inside this stigma. Through this stigma, because of the dissolution of enzymes which have been produced by the stigma, and they continue growing inside the style, and finally they reach the ovary, inside the ovule. So these tube nuclei, when they reach the stigma and the pollen tube starts growing from the pollen grain, what happens is that these generative nuclei divide into two sperm nuclei, while the tube nucleus degenerates. This we will discuss further. What is happening is, when this will finally disintegrate and disappear, and these will travel down through the ovary. Now let's discuss the structure of the ovule. Now this is the structure of the ovule, right? You can see this is the nucellus. This part, it provides nutrition to the growing embryo. Then these are the layers of the, these layers that you can see are the layers of the ovule. They are known as the outer integument and inner integument. Then we have the three types of cells inside the ovule. This is the antipodal cell, then the polar nuclei, and the egg apparatus, right? Then this is the point, this is micropyle through which the pollen tube will grow inside. It will penetrate or enter the ovule, and through which the process of fertilization, or that is the fusion of the male and the female gamete, will take place. So this is the detailed structure of the ovule. Let's move on to the process of fertilization. What happens in the process of fertilization? Now how does this process of fertilization take place? Now let's discuss it by using the diagram, that is longitudinal section of a flower showing the growth of pollen tube. Now when the pollen grain falls on the stigma of a flower, it absorbs water and minerals from the stigma, and it grows into a thin tube, which you can see. This thin pollen tube, what happens, carry to the whole length of the style, and then moving on into the ovary. It penetrates the stigma and passes through the style. It enters the ovule through the ovary, and this is the point through which it enters, that is, that point or that pore is known as the micropyle. The male reproductive cells, along with the grown pollen tube, what is moving are the two sperm nuclei. Nuclei is the plural of the new term nucleus. When we are saying two, that means two nuclei and it is one nucleus, right? The two male nuclei travel to the whole length of the style and then enter inside the ovule through the micropyle. The tip of the pollen tube bursts open and releases the male reproductive cells are released, and these male reproductive cell fuse with the egg cell and other with the polar nuclei, one with the egg cell and the with the polar nuclei. So this is also known as double fertilization because two types of fusion are taking place, one with the polar nuclei and other with the egg cell. So you can see that polar nuclei are two in number. So when one male nuclei fuses with it, one male nucleus fuses with it, it forms three cell. It is also known as triple fusion. And one egg cell fuses with the other male nuclei, it forms the zygote, which later on forms the embryo, and this embryo grows into a new plant by the process of germination. So this you can see, the two cells which are flanking the egg cell are known as synergids, and they are also known as the helper cells. When the egg cell fails to fertilize, then the other cell function as the egg cell and the process of fertilization takes place. So this process of the fusion of the male reproductive cell with the female reproductive cell to form a zygote is called fertilization. Is it clear? Next is the post-fertilization changes. What are the changes that take place in the flower once the process of fertilization is complete? Now this ovary in which the fertilization has taken place, it develops to form the fruit, right? And the ovule grows to become a seed, and other parts of the flower like stamen, style and stigma dry and they fall off. Is it clear? Once again I revise that in the process of fertilization, the fusion of the male and the female gamete take place, which result in the formation of a zygote, and once this process of fertilization is complete, the ovary develops to form the fruit and the ovules become the seeds, and other parts of the flower, that is the stamen, style and stigma, dry and they fall off. So I have just told you that a fruit is a ripened ovary, and the wall of the ovary is fleshy like in papaya and tomato. You can see in your books that the papaya and tomato, or even you have tasted all these and seen these fruits, don't need to tell them that behind the book. Or dry like in pea and gram, so fruit may be fleshy or dry. So scientifically, tomato, pea, pumpkin, brinjal and cucumber are all fruits, whereas any part of a plant like the root, stem and leaf which is eaten raw or cooked is a vegetable. So radish is an example of a vegetable, because we were discussing that it is an underground. Find it for yourself, it's an underground root. Then fleshy and dry fruits. Fleshy fruits, the entire pericarp is soft and fleshy. What is pericarp? If you divide the fruit wall, it can be divided into the mesocarp, pericarp, epicarp, endocarp, right? So pericarp is soft and fleshy. They are called fleshy fruits. Example are grapes, tomato and papaya. Then next is in mango and cherry, the epicarp and mesocarp are fleshy, but the endocarp is hard. I have told you that these are the three layers of the wall of a fruit, that is epicarp, mesocarp, endocarp. These are all the layers of the fruit wall. So in mango and cherry, the epicarp and mesocarp are fleshy, but the endocarp is hard, that you throw it and discard in the form of seed. Then dry fruits like walnuts, chestnut, almond, almond, then you have cashew nuts. These are all example of dry fruits. The pericarp is not fleshy but dry and hard. These are called as dry fruits. And some fruits that do not develop from the ovary, they develop from other parts of the flower. They are called as false fruits. Examples are apple and pear. They develop from the thalamus. Told you what the thalamus and receptacle on which the whole plant body or the gynoecium, androecium, all these things rest, right? They support the flower. The functions of a fruit: it helps in the dispersal of seeds. Dispersal means the scattering of seeds. How is it helping in the dispersal process? That a person or animal is eating and throwing the seeds here and there, so these they are the agents of dispersion and helping in the scattering process or the dispersal process. Then it protects the seeds from unfavorable weather condition. Then what is a seed? I've just told you that at maturity or after post fertilization, the fruit ovary develops into a fruit and ovules develop into seed, and this is what contains the baby plant. And when you sow these seeds, they germinate, they grow into new plants. And dispersal, I've just told you that if all seeds fall under the same plant and start growing into new plants, a large number of plants will grow in a small space. As a result, what will happen? There will be a lot of competition for water, minerals, air and sunlight. As a result, most of them will not be able to survive. There would be overcrowding and many plants would die. To prevent this, seeds are spread away from the parent plant. So the scattering of seeds over a large area away from the parent plant is called as dispersal of seeds. So what are the agents of dispersal? Wind, water and animals. These are the agents of dispersal, and when this seed gets sufficient air, water and suitable temperature, it germinates into a new plant. And so this is how a seed grows into a new plant. Once the process of fertilization is complete, the fruit and the seeds develop. The seeds are dispersed, and on finding suitable temperature, air and water, they germinate into a new plant. So this is how the process of sexual reproduction is completed. So revise the whole chapter and start try doing the exercises, following them. First complete the exercise on page number 29. We will revise the chapter and discuss the exercise on page number 31. Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.